The Launceston Football Club was formed in 1875, making it the oldest club in Tasmania. But it was not until 1882 and the establishment of the Northern Football Association that organised football can genuinely be said to have commenced. This inaugural association only lasted 4 years before being replaced in 1886 by the Northern Tasmanian Football Association NTFA, which would endure until the inception of a Tasmanian statewide competition, precisely 100 years later. The Launceston teams of the 1930s were some of the finest ever to grace Tasmanian football ovals. With players like Bill Cahill, Roy Cooper, Tom Ryan and Doug Wheeler to the fore, the side won 6 consecutive flags between 1933 and 1938. Only North Hobart in 1936 prevented what would have been an identical sequence of wins in the Tasmanian State Premiership. Launceston provided a football home to a large number of accomplished players, such as the club's only official All-Australian, Graham Gypsy Lee, Albie Dunn, Paul Vinnar, Grant Orford, Paul Ellis and Wim Basin. Launceston has 38 premierships in total, spanning from 1880 to 2022, and the club was inducted into the Tasmanian Football Hall of Fame as a Great Club in 2008. Volumus Vincere. The will to win. The Launceston Football Club.
Well, we shared the ground for training with City, North and Launceston, the 3 teams.
Back in those days, all teams in Launceston in the NTFA trained at your park. You had the umpires running around the outside, and East or North or Launceston would have half the ground each, and they had 3 teams.
Oh, there wasn't much about them, and the change rooms were at the side where North Launceston is now. It was a bit of a ramp we walked up, but the showers were cold, I can know that.
How significant in the 150 years of the Launceston Football Club to actually make that move, eventuate for Launceston to have a standalone football ground for their club? How important was that?
I think it was very important from the playing point of view and the training. They had a good following here in Launceston, in Riverside, and everyone was enthusiastic when they started.
Now we know that the club rooms were built and opened back in May 1968. Then Premier Eric Rees was here to officiate in that, but you probably had more important things to consider that day, because you actually played on that very important day for the club against Scottsdale.
Well, I can't remember the Premier, but I certainly remember the match.
Well, you were playing footy, so that was your job.
That's right. And it always comes back to me that match was Bob Withers and Graham Garner, coach of Scottsdale. They clashed over the wing, and Bob went. I don't know whether he ran through him, but he certainly hurt him. I could hear him moaning and groaning. He was a tough player.
Well, I think in 1967, Launceston finished near enough to the bottom of the ladder. In 1968, Bob Withers was appointed coach, and I can remember some of his first words to us was we were going to gain a bit of respect from others, which did happen.
I come from a country town called Avoca on the northeast coast, and I've always been a bit of a supporter of Launceston because back in 1968 at Avoca, Kevin Ude and Barry Ransom played with Avoca when Avoca won the Premiership out there. And we had a great footballer called Ray Bailey who hailed from Avoca, and he also played with Launceston. And when I got the opportunity to come in 73, I got a call from Bob Withers to come down to training, and which always adored Bobby Withers, so I come down and come to training, and the rest is history from there.
Oh, it was a quite easy place to come to because my father had the Crown Hotel, and Launceston footballers used to drink there. So as a young teenager, all these footballers that you used to read about in the paper, they were drinking there, and you were talking with them, and they got to talk to you, and so the transition was easy. And I think I was in Launceston's area anyway. So when I left school, came down here in 1974.
I came down in 73 from Avoca with Paul Ellis. Paul come the year before, and I always remember we had a function at the Trevelyan Bowls Club, and I met the legendary Bob Withers. Bob was coaching at the time.
Oh, Bobby was just a great man. He's someone who you really admired from afar from the early days when I was just a kid, and you heard so much about him and what a great footballer he was. And so, yeah, when I come in, I was just pretty much in awe of Bob.
First practice match was against Penguin out here, and all of a sudden, one of the guys who was supposed to be a bit of a tough nut under Bob Withers, Tony Walters, he had a bit of a dry reach before the bounce, and then when they bounced, the ball went whack and hit this Penguin guy, and I thought, welcome to senior footy.
And I've gone up to Bob and put my hand out to shake Bob's hand, and I shook his hand, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "If you're going to shake my hand, son," he said, "shake it properly and look me in the eye." And, you know, he'd give me a good hard squeeze, and I always remember that. I've always made that part of my life to make sure if you shake somebody's hand, make sure it's a good shake.
First full senior game, I sat on the bench for Bob against East Launceston down here the same year. And when there was going to be a contest, he expanded like a bullfrog. He just, you know, just the physicality of it, because that's the way he played from what I can remember as a kid, and he was hard as, and he didn't like anyone taking shortcuts.
I first came down here in 1980 when our eldest boy, Todd, wanted to play in the juniors. But the coach of the under-12s back then, he had the kids out doing push-ups. So I grabbed Todd and took him home. I came back in Peter Thurlow was then heavily involved in the juniors. He basically started the junior competition. And he got me down here back in 81. Kane would have been 8, Todd would have been 10 or 11. Peter was the coach, and I was the runner of the under-12s.
It was probably 1981, I think, when Matthew, my eldest son, came down to play with the club in the juniors, under-12s. And I've been here ever since, and the family's been here ever since.
Well, I came here in 1967. And to play with Launceston, but I think I was worn out by then and I didn't do very well. I went away to spell for a while, followed Launceston of course, and I came back in the early 80s, and all of a sudden I found myself president. I got waylaid, I think, and I ended up president.
Yeah, like my earliest memories of his club rooms, you know, like playing on the Pac-Man machines and all that sort of stuff, just hanging around as an 8-year-old. And as Dad said, Peter Thurlow said to Dad, you know, would Kane like a game? And I was only 8 years old. You know, I thought, oh, well, why not, sort of thing, yeah, and just loved it. And just, I knew some of the guys from high school because I went to high school with my brother, and yeah, and just kept playing. So, yeah, football's in my blood, I suppose, and, you know, and Lottie is to a certain extent as well, because, you know, you just grow up around these surroundings, and that's all you know. You go from Riverside High, you stop at Joe's Takeaway for some, you know, Greasy Joe's chips, you know, on the way to footy, you know, and you tuck into your $2 chips, and that feeds the whole family. And yeah, and then you get out and run around and no push-ups, but yeah, you get a bit of grumbling in the tummy, but that's all about it. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Greasy Joes, you couldn't beat us.
If you went to Riverside School, you came down and played with Launceston. And look, there's even grandsons of players that played back here playing at the club now, you know, and there's been friends of Matthews, went to school, played football here. They've had kids and they're down here and so on. It just goes on there.
It was just a natural thing to do. Like, everyone lived in the area and you all finished school and just wandered over together with your bags, and yeah, it was just, you hung out together at school and you hung out at footy together over Wednesday night. So, you know, we didn't know any better. Yeah, no phones or anything like that. So what do? You hang around with your mates and go and have a kick.
I came to Tasmania in '77 and played with New Norfolk for a couple of years, then went to Burnie, and then had a coaching offer in '81 to come through to Launceston. And look, from work point of view, from the people that we got involved with in the club, it meant a great deal to us, and that's why we've stayed here for so long, I think, is the connection with the club and the friends we've got to meet over the years. And, you know, we've still got a lot of friends involved in the club now.
Yeah, well, I suppose I was actually born into the Launceston Football Club. My dad's was always a lifelong supporter. His relationship with the club was through Bobby Bye. Bobby and Dad were schoolmates. When Bobby started at Launceston, it was just a natural flow for Dad to follow Launceston and follow Bobby, which is strange because Dad was a swampy. So it was a sort of crossing the river at the time sort of thing. So although the games weren't being played here until the late 60s.
Well, my son started playing the under-12s, and I came down one day and Kerry Sanders was coaching. He said, "Could you do me a favour, Bob? Would you do the match managing for me?" And that's where I've stayed, and I couldn't get away from, well, I didn't try and get away from it, but I've done match managing for the under-12s, under-13s, 14s, 16s and 17s, and then into 18. And those days are under-19s. And I think I've done 17 years doing that. And then we went into the State League, and Darren Beard was coaching the Colt side, or the development side, and he couldn't get anyone to be match manager for him. So I done that for Darren, and we won 3 premierships that way. And I think I retired about 2018.
Started for me with Sharinga Colleges. I was a bit of a late bloomer. I didn't play after school. And then I played a year under Gary Whitney at Sharinga Colleges, and he talked me into coming down here. My dad played here back in the 50s and played for Tasmania, and so it was a pretty easy transition for me to come here.
It's a fabulous club. It's just part of my life. It is. I've been here for 48, 47 years overall, on and off. Had a few years away, of course. But it's just a fabulous environment. The people here, many of them are still here from the days that I started, which is indicative of what the club's about, is to still have many people here from that long ago, still part of it actively.
A good friend at school on the other side of the river. We were located in the northern area, for the North Launceston sort of area. And basically our school side was 99% North Launceston players, and we didn't really get along that well with them, even though they were really good players. So he coaxed me to come over on the bus to Windsor Park and have a tryout in the unders back then, and yeah, in 1993, and then stayed here for 20 years.
After I finished school at St Pat's, finished grade 12 up there, I was tossing up whether to go to St Pat's Old Boys or come to Launceston, because that was back in the days of zones. So up in West Launceston, I was in the Launceston zone. So I chose to come down to Launceston and played mainly reserves football for 11 years, mostly alongside Darren. At the end of that, I just a humble reserves player, played one senior game. Verdon Howell, old Brownlow medalist, was coaching in 88, 89, gave me a game in the last round in 89 against Burnie out here. But after I finished playing, Tim Cocker retired as senior runner, so
I was looking for the job as reserves runner, but that position came up and they asked me to do the senior running job. So I was lucky enough to do that for 15 years and gave that up after the 2007 flag under Adam Sanders, and then started counting some numbers, doing stats. So Darren Lovell came on board in 2009 and we've been doing the senior match day stats right through the TSL period. So all of a sudden the years have accumulated.
I lived locally actually, up the back of Riverside, so this was the closest club at the time to me. Was going through a little bit of junior state football and didn't have a home or a club, and it was a prerequisite that you did have one. So knew one or two people down here and basically just turned up.
Coming through with juniors from down Beauty Point originally, so down the river, and then we actually started up the Tamer Cats down there in the juniors. So I went back there for a couple of years to help that get off the ground. Thanks, Mum and Dad, for that. And then yeah, back here as a 15-year-old. A few of us boys sort of bypassed the under 16 comp and just come to the under 18s, which was fantastic. So back in 2003, I suppose it would have been.
Dad especially had quite a few beers up in this rooms and sort of let us kids get a bit of stray on a Sunday afternoon. We'd often just wander up, a group of 10 or 12 of us, as the parents were up here drinking frothies, up to Joe's Takeaway and fish and chips on the way home, and get up to a bit of mischief as we wandered back as it got dark. But I had a lot of really good memories down here, and especially a lot of them from this room.
Being the younger brother, you always look up to your elder sibling, and I don't shy away from the fact everything that Gene did, I wanted to do. He was my hero growing up. So there was nothing was going to stop me coming over here and following what he did. Like I'd do everything that he did. I'd listen to his CDs, I'd wear his clothes, and I'd want to do everything that he did. So I'm not embarrassed about that, because it's led me here, and we've been able to forge some pretty good relationships over the journey.
So I was at South Launceston Junior, and then went through the Mariners program in 97, 98, and then moved to Hobart and went to Clarence for a couple of years, and then I ended up back at South. In 2005, I got the call from Adam Sanders at the time to get me over. It would have been 2004, and then ended up here in 2005.
You just enjoy being around the place. The people that are here always make you feel welcome and make you feel it is part of your home. And I can see why there are 2 and 3 generations of players and supporters still around the club. It's great.
Peter started off, Launceston used to have their annual dinner at the you know that steakhouse that was on the corner?
The Tamer Hotel.
No, up before that.
Well, the first Auskick morning, one Sunday morning, before the actual junior started, was held here and every other club, I think, around Tasmania.
On the corner of the Kingsway. It was a steakhouse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
As Rick Reach?
Well, something like that. I can't, yeah, well, that's where they used to have their annual dinner. And that's where he started from. Yeah. And then got very involved.
And I felt like the Pied Piper, because we weren't allowed on the ground here, but we had to go over there. Well, I had probably 80 kids follow me, because it was all new. And it was going to be sponsored by the AFL. And
yeah, I think his influence was was profound, because none of us would have us children would have got involved. They used to have some junior kick around games just for kids that used to turn up over at the Brickworks, the old Brickworks site in in South Launceston, and then they actually got a delegate from each club just with their contacts, and they basically formed the NTJFA.
They were throwing money at it, and that's how it started. And I did see a lot of players come through Launceston, North, a lot of them who did this junior after it started. Because the NTJFA, which was started by the gentleman from City and Launceston, namely Peter Thurlow from here.
We came up through the juniors, of course, and we just got involved, and they had no money, so we just gave it our all.
And that developed to be a very strong, and still going, I believe, very strongly. And a lot of players used to come from eventually the thirds or whatever through the Ausgig.
Following on from Grandad, we were really lucky. We had, I think, between the years of 2004 to 2010, if it wasn't under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s then came out, or 16s, there was premierships just about every year. So Dad was coaching from 2012, 13, 14, and then jumped to under 16s, and we won flags in every year. Mark, he was coaching the age group above, which I had other cousins playing in, which they were winning premierships in them years as well. So it was a really strong foundation for then what then followed on. A lot of these guys over the last probably 10 years, a lot of them played junior footy here.
You've only got to look at the young boys that have gone to the AFL to see how well our juniors have done.
How that's been influential for the club and for here is we've had, I think the difference between the Launceston Football Club and other clubs is we've had this really strong pathway from junior footy into senior footy, and there's so many, there's been obviously people play VFL, AFL, come through our junior program, but feeding players from the juniors into the senior program to be successful players and have that sort of community club aspect, because obviously they've got ties and roots back to their early days of playing junior footy. It's created a good culture for the club.